Greetings, my wonderful students. Today we will be learning about the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is the court of last resort in all questions of federal law. That means it's the final arbiter, has the final say on federal law. The court does not have to hear all cases that are presented to it and will carefully choose which cases to hear. Supreme Court decisions are binding on all lower courts, meaning they must follow the example the court sets. Jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has both original jurisdiction and appellate jurisdiction. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution sets out the court's original jurisdiction, which includes cases involving representatives of a foreign government, certain cases in which a state is a party. Congress cannot curtail or expand the court's original jurisdiction. They are set within the Constitution. Now, many original jurisdiction cases arise from disputes between the states. For example, Maryland and Virginia arguing over fishing rights, or California and Arizona arguing over water rights in the Colorado River. Original jurisdiction only counts for an average of 5 cases a year for the Supreme Court. The court's appellate jurisdiction consists of cases appealed from the lower courts of appeals or from federal district courts if an act of Congress was ruled unconstitutional. Appeals from the state courts. The Supreme Court can only hear a case appealed from the highest state court, and only if it involves the Constitution or federal law. The court can only rule on the federal or constitutional issue involved, not on the state law itself. Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court has 9 justices, 1 Chief Justice, and 8 Associate Justices. Congress sets the number of justices and can change it. The number has varied throughout history from 5 to 10. It has been 9 justices since the year 1869. Franklin Roosevelt, FDR, tried to gain more control over the Supreme Court by asking Congress to increase the number of justices, the court packing plan, but Congress refused. The salaries of the justices are set by Congress and cannot be reduced. As of this writing, 8 associate justices are paid $244,400 per year, and the Chief Justice is paid $255,500 per year. Congress is allowed to remove Supreme Court justices through impeachment for conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. No Supreme Court has ever been removed through impeachment. Duties of the justices. They are not described in the Constitution. The duties have developed through laws, traditions, and needs of the nation. The main duty of the Supreme Court is to hear and rule on cases. This includes choosing which cases to hear and deciding the case itself, giving the court's opinion or explanation for the ruling. The Chief Justice has more duties, such as presiding over sessions and conferences. The 12 federal judicial circuits are divided between the justices. The justices are responsible for requests from special legal action that come from their districts. Sometimes justices take on additional duties. For example, in 1945, Justice Robert Jackson became the chief prosecutor for the Nuremberg trials, putting the Nazis on trial for war crimes. In 1963, Chief Justice Earl Warren headed a special commission to investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy. If justices have a personal connection to a case, they usually disqualify themselves from participating. Law clerks. Law clerks assist the justices with their many tasks. They read all the appeals filed with the court and write summaries of the key issues. When the cases are decided, the clerks help prepare the court's opinion by doing research. The justices hire law clerks from the top graduates of the nation's best law schools. After leaving the court, many of these young men and women go on to distinguished careers. Background of justices. Through the court's history, only 2 justices have been African American, and only 5 have been women. That has changed very recently. Justices do not have to be natural-born citizens. In history, 6 have been born outside of the United States. Justices have been mainly older men who've come from upper-class families. Most justices have considerable legal experience and a law degree, but it is not required. Appointing justices. The President appoints justices to the court with the approval of the Senate. Political considerations affect who the President will nominate to the court. The President usually chooses someone from his own party, and the President must be careful to nominate someone who will most likely be confirmed by the Senate. Presidents try to nominate someone who believes the same way they do, but sometimes this is difficult to judge. President Eisenhower named Earl Warren as Chief Justice in 1953 and expected Warren to continue to support conservative viewpoints as he had as governor of California. However, the Warren Court was one of the most liberal courts in history. To choose which candidates to nominate, the President consults with many different groups. Among these are the Justice Department officials, the Attorney General, and the American Bar Association, the Association of Lawyers. The role of the American Bar Association. The ABA is the largest organization of attorneys. It has been consulted by every president since 1952 on almost every federal judicial appointment. They only evaluate the professional qualifications of the candidate, and the President and the Senate are not required to follow their recommendations. In some instances, the ABA has rated a nominee as not qualified, but they have still been appointed. The role of other interest groups. Some interest groups have a stake in Supreme Court decisions. These interest groups may try to influence the process of appointing justices. They lobby for or against a certain nominee and stir up public knowledge and interest. Strong opposition to a nominee by a major interest group might influence the senators who vote on that nominee. For example, labor unions might oppose a nominee who is anti-labor. The National Organization for Women opposes candidates who might be anti-abortion. Civil rights groups examine the nominee's views on minority rights. Role of the justices. Members of the court themselves may influence the process. Current justices must work with the newcomers, so they participate in selecting the candidates. Justices may write letters of recommendation for their particular nominee. And that is the end of this slide.